Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for November 28th, 2025. The topic today, the unbelievable hypocrisy of the misleaders of Europe. Now, they're using the pretext of U.S.-Russian consultation to get an agreement to end the Ukraine war, to throw a fit. Why should Russia and the U.S. be talking? That's essentially what you're hearing from the so-called leaders of Europe. And they're not just angry about being bypassed, although that's part of it. They don't want peace. They're committed to war. Their economies are in a shambles, and they think war spending is the ticket to get out of the crisis. Now, as a result, most of the leaders of the so-called E3 countries, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, are nearing single digits in popularity polls. They've outlived their welcome. Now, the question that should be asked here is, number one, why do they keep harping on a so-called invasion coming from Russia when there's no evidence to back that up? And secondly, what is it that is a scandal about diplomatic discussion? Why should it be a cause of concern if Trump is sending people over to meet with Putin and to Ukraine for discussions? The deployment of Witkoff to Moscow and the Secretary of the Army Driscoll to Kiev is normal diplomacy. And the idea that this is somehow sneaky or behind the backs of Europe or somehow unacceptable throws out the whole history of back channels and diplomatic discussion. So when did diplomacy become a crime or a scandal? Now, Starmer has had Blair's hitman, Jonathan Powell, camped out in Damascus to make sure that the overthrow of Assad was followed up by Syria orienting toward the interests of the British Empire. Why is that not a scandal? How about Macron's army chief saying that the French are afraid to sacrifice their children in a war, and therefore they're not prepared for war? Why should they sacrifice their children for an unnecessary war? And then you have the Chancellor of Germany, Merz. Is he a deal maker for Rheinmetall and the weapons industry, or for BlackRock? Where is the interest of the German people? So what Putin has called for is a conference of the Collective Security Treaty Organization in Moscow to develop an equal and indivisible security for all Europe, for all nations. This has been on the Russian front page for negotiations since at least 2007. It was part of the whole negotiation around Ukraine after the Maidan coup. By the way, the Maidan coup, regime change, who has a right to do that? Ursula von der Leyen, the European Union, NATO? So the question then is, where is this headed? And what Putin is saying, that all friendly nations are invited to the conference in Moscow. The question is the United States a friendly nation? I don't think the European countries are. Will the U.S. engage in multilateral deliberation, seeking the higher harmony that Putin says he wants? Why not? Now, the question of Europe, it's controlled by the City of London and the interests of the global bankers centered there. Ursula von der Leyen makes the comment that you cannot arbitrarily change borders. Where the hell has she been for the last 20 years? What about Serbia? From March 24th, 1999 to June 10th, 1999, Serbia was bombed by NATO, and the result was to break up the country, Yugoslavia. What about regime change? Is that acceptable? How about Libya in February 2011, led by Europe, the British and the French, and joined by the United States? Obama saying, "We lead from behind," an unsavory comment at best. What about Syria, starting the uncivil war in March 2011? What about the Ukraine coup in 2014? What about the lying about the Minsk Accord? What about the sabotage of the April 2022 peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia? That's the work of the Europeans who are protesting diplomatic moves toward peace today. Why should anyone pay attention to those fools? Now, also preaching democracy while overturning election results, as happened in Romania, and using assassination through the International Assassination Bureau to try to take out Fico, the leader of Slovakia. How about the targeting of Orban? He's trying to get a peace agreement from the Europeans, and they're trying to drive him out of power in Budapest. How about the British role in Russiagate to undermine Donald Trump after he won the election in 2016? There's a clear British role, as we've documented repeatedly in the Executive Intelligence Review. Now, who do the Europeans work with? They're hoping that they can work with the neocons like little Narco Rubio and Hegseth to prevent a treaty agreement from being reached. The Europeans didn't like the speech given by Vice President Vance at the Munich Security Conference. They don't like the fact that Vance's friend, Driscoll, is now the Secretary of the Army and is a negotiator with Ukraine for Trump. Now, what's the strategy of the people running Europe? War, regime change, assassination, hybrid warfare, fake news, and censorship. That's their policy. Is that acceptable to the people of Europe? Why are you so damn quiet about it? Why are you accepting this? Why are you tolerating the reemergence of pro-Nazi policy in Western Europe? Now, President Trump, here's the message to you in all of this. Meet with Putin. Reach an agreement with him. Bring the United States into alignment with the global majority, which wants peace. They want peace in Ukraine. They want peace in Gaza. They want peace in Africa. They want to be recognized as sovereign nations acting on behalf of the interests of their people, not the banksters and crooks and swindlers of the City of London and Wall Street. So you have to forget the City of London, President Trump. Not forget them in that you put them out of mind, but you take them out of the loop in making policy. You have to forget the Zionist lobby, the drug money launderers and arms traffickers, and those who run the pedophile rings that blackmail people who go against their wishes. The mission of the United States now is to join with the global majority, reach an agreement to end the war in Ukraine, end the killing. And we need a new security and development architecture to replace the crumbling imperial geopolitical system, which is going down the drain right in front of the eyes of the world right now, and is committed to a genocide in Gaza and a continued war in Ukraine. Let the people of the United Kingdom, France, and Germany deal with the fools who rule them. Our job in the United States is to have a mission of peace and development and cooperation for higher harmony with all nations of the global majority. Now, let me just give you an example of how idiotic the situation is. I was asked to do an interview with a journal in the United Kingdom on the question of homelessness among Ukrainians in Britain. What should be done about this? Clearly, the British government lacks the funds to build new homes and provide housing. And we're talking about close to 5,000 families. Now, what's the solution? Stop the damn wars. Instead of spending money on bombs to destroy that country and to provoke Russia into a war, spend the money to build housing, to create education opportunities for the refugees who come to your shores. Instead, what are they doing? Spending for more war. Isn't that foolish, counterintuitive? It's not just foolish, it's immoral and dangerous. So that gives you an indication of what the discussion is about. The poor Ukrainian refugees who can't find housing because their homes have been destroyed in Ukraine because of the war against Russia, which the British are continuing to demand money to fight. And they're prepared to sacrifice Ukrainian lives for their own dreams of defeating Putin and breaking apart Russia. So with that as a background, why should the President of the United States be upset at being criticized by the media? He knows the media is corrupt. So go out and make the deals. Make the agreement with Putin, with Xi Jinping, with others. The American people will support you, as will people all over the world who would be happy to see the United States give up the regime change wars and the support for the International Monetary Fund looting of their countries. So that's the overview as we head into another weekend. Today at 11 a.m. Eastern, Helga Zepp-LaRouche will be convening another Zoom call of the International Peace Coalition. The IPC has been at the forefront of pushing for peace. Now is the time for you to get involved with us, to put a real cordon sanitaire or perhaps straitjacket on the misleaders of Europe. So thanks for joining me this week. Keep your eyes on the LaRouche Organization website and also Executive Intelligence Review. I'll see you again on Monday.